Jimmy Young, the co-founder of WPCM-TV and the executive producer of Cannabis, Coast to Coast News. You know, ever since the change in administration in Washington, D.C. in January, I've been saying in podcasts, interviews, and on our Cannabis Coast to Coast News show that the president's ego could be the deciding factor in his move to reforming the draconian cannabis laws. Late Sunday night, Truth Social released a video produced by the Commonwealth Project introducing the endocannabinoid system. And to the non-enlightened pro-cannabis world, I'm going to share that video in a minute. But to me, this is the best sign yet that the president, Mr. Trump, wants to be the hero for seniors, the medical healthcare system, and directly, or maybe even indirectly, the cannabis reform movement. Of course, he is taking credit for the 2018 Farm Bill that was passed during his first administration, and that bill created a federal legal definition for the cannabis sativa plant and opened the Pandora's box that has led to not one, but $2 billion industries, the unregulated hemp and CBD industry, and the overregulated and legalized cannabis industry. Check out the video, and then I'll be back to tell you what I think might happen next.
You can revolutionize senior healthcare. We've all heard about the major systems in our bodies, like the digestive, respiratory, nervous, and cardiovascular systems. But there's one essential system discovered in the 90s that you probably never heard of. It makes all of the other systems work smoothly with each other. Like a conductor, ensuring the different sections of an orchestra all play a beautiful symphony together. This system is called the endocannabinoid system. It has been acknowledged and studied by scientists extensively with support from the National Institutes of Health. As we age, the system weakens. As a result, the different systems in our body stop working together smoothly. That's one of the reasons older adults struggle with pain, inflammation, cognitive decline, and other ailments of aging, for which doctors often prescribe dangerous and addictive pharmaceuticals. They also recommend lifestyle remedies such as exercise, good diet, and stress management. And while all these improve the system, it is only fractionally and over a long time. But here's the game changer. The system can be restored faster using hemp-derived CBD. When the system is restored, pain subsides, sleep is improved, and stress is reduced. When the system is restored, disease progression can slow down, and years are added to your life, as well as years spent in good health. And 20% of seniors are already using CBD today for pain, arthritis, cancer symptoms, sleep disorders, Alzheimer's, and many other ailments of aging. But doctors are not equipped to provide guidance, and there are no FDA standards for what is already in the market today. Imagine if that were the case for other medications. Older adults are suffering needlessly. Hemp-derived CBD can help them feel better, live longer, and improve their quality of life significantly.
A PricewaterhouseCoopers report estimates annual cost savings for the U.S. nearly $64 billion a year if cannabis is fully integrated into the healthcare system.
The groundbreaking 2018 Farm Bill, championed by President Trump, was the first step. Now it's time to educate doctors on the endocannabinoid system, provide Medicare coverage for CBD, and give millions of seniors the support they deserve. You will deliver the most important senior health initiative of the century, cementing your legacy and transforming aging care. Millions everywhere will thank you.
Okay, so this means President Trump finally understands what many of us have said for years. God put this plant on earth for a reason, a medical reason, not a recreational one, a medical one. Think about history for a minute. What do you really think was in that peace pipe or in the medicine man's black bag hundreds of years ago? It's been greed, control, race, and ignorant male leaders who've screwed up its acceptance for over 100 years. Now, to be honest, I have no idea what might happen because our two political parties are broken and moderation and compromise are just forgotten policies in this country. I mean, the only time the two sides of politics can get together to get anything accomplished is when the threat of a government shutdown moves their agendas and their egos towards moderation. Whether this means that rescheduling is coming soon or not, it might just be the beginning of a more unified country. But if accepting the medicinal power of this plant and burying the stigma that prohibition has sustained, well, that's a very good sign of acceptance of cannabis's medical impact on the world and on the future of this country. I just hope we won't screw it up. This is a WPCM TV News special report and editorial. I'm Jimmy Young. Coming up on Cannabis Coast to Coast News with Elena Pinto this week, the prohibitionist group SAM releases results from a fabricated poll fixed to support their anti-rescheduling movement and agenda. Advocates from NORML, Marijuana Policy Project, and the American Trade Association of Cannabis and Hemp Industries blast the tactic as misinformation. Plus, Michigan House increases its taxes on cannabis wholesale sales by 24%, threatening one of the largest markets in the U.S. Amy Carter has that story. And 3 cannabis companies in Colorado get shut down by the state after ignoring health risks in their products over the past 5 years. Jenny Germano has the story on that state's new tough tactics. Plus, another threat to the hemp industry emerges in Texas, even though new regulations are in place as a new Senate villain emerges. And the latest in the soap opera that is the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, newly returned Commissioner Shannon O'Brien puts the brakes on the social consumption license progress, reestablishing the chaos and delays under her leadership from 2 years ago. All that and more on Cannabis Coast to Coast News with Elena Pinto next.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cannabis Coast to Coast News, WPCM TV's weekly show documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition in this country and around the world. I'm Elena Pinto. So, did you hear that the co-founder of WPCM TV and the executive producer of this show, Jimmy Young, was nominated for an MJ Award for Cannabis Journalist of the Year? Those awards are part of the annual MJ BizCon trade show and celebration in Las Vegas in December. Now, Jimmy doesn't consider himself a journalist anymore, but he does curate the work of the journalists who work in the cannabis media industry every week, and he trains all of our correspondents and volunteer reporters. So if you want to vote for Jimmy or salute his efforts to bringing you the weekly news of the fight to end cannabis prohibition, you can scan the QR code on the screen once a day up until December 4th, the night of the award show at MJ BizCon this year. Okay, our first story focuses on the movement by prohibitionists who want to stop the rescheduling efforts that President Trump and the Republican-controlled Congress are still considering. One of the most active and visible groups who are backed by the substance abuse lobby and Big Pharma is SAM, Dr. Kevin Sabet's Smart Approaches to Marijuana Lobby. This week, they hired a pollster group called On Message to take a poll of 1,000 adults who were asked a question about rescheduling that many are calling biased. The group On Message is not even listed on the top 88 polling groups by Media Bias, an independent fact-checking group that oversees legitimate and regular pollsters in this country. The question asked a hypothetical question that said, if you knew the following were true about rescheduling marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 federal classification, which would reduce some federal restrictions on marijuana, would you be more or less likely to support rescheduling marijuana to a lower classification? Rescheduling marijuana would give marijuana companies a financial incentive to advertise more to children. Well, 65% of the adults polled said yes, of course, it would alter their opinions. But needless to say, many cannabis advocacy groups are furious by these nefarious tactics to influence lawmakers and public opinion. Adam Smith, the executive director of the Marijuana Policy Project, told Tom Angel's Marijuana Moment that SAM is spewing misinformation to confuse lawmakers and the public. Here are the facts. It is already a crime for cannabis businesses to advertise to children, one that can result in serious penalties. Moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, or even removing it from the schedule entirely, would not change that. Don't be fooled by prohibitionist fear tactics. Project SAM's goal is not to protect kids. It is to drag us back to the dark days of hundreds of thousands of annual arrests, ruining the lives of otherwise law-abiding people, and packing prisons with people whose only crime is possession of a plant that humans have been using safely for thousands of years, end quote. Morgan Fox, the political director of NORML, also told that news organization prohibitionists have long relied on creative interpretations of data to cast doubt on public support for cannabis policy reform. It is not surprising that they double down on this strategy when they are the ones writing the questions, he said. A month ago, executive producer Jimmy Young talked to Paul Armentano, the deputy director of NORML, who clarified what a move from Schedule 1 to 3 would actually do for the industry.
And then if you're in the industry and you're running a company that has minimal margins, which because of all the compliance and the regulations that everybody in this industry that is a plant touching part of the industry has to deal with, at least you could get rid of that vile 280E clause in your taxes and actually write off those basic business expenses that every other business in America has the right to do as a business, but they've withheld it from the cannabis community for a number of reasons. And in other words, that would be a great win for the industry because of how tight everybody is right now.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is we see some political opponents of rescheduling acting as if this would hand some sort of gift to the cannabis industry, when, as you just explained, this isn't a gift at all. Right now, the industry is facing a tax burden that no other industry faces, and that makes it very hard for them to do business. Rescheduling with regard to taxation on the industry simply levels the playing field. It doesn't give them some sort of new advantage, but it does take away an existing disadvantage that the industry has faced.
Michael Bronstein is the president of the American Trade Association of Cannabis and Hemp Industries, and he shared this quote: "The questions in this poll are clearly misleading. Independent polling consistently shows that Americans of all political stripes support cannabis reform, including rescheduling," unquote. He also pointed out that in a recent poll by Emerson College, a group that is listed with very high marks from that independent list called Media Bias Fact Check of legitimate polling groups, shows that 2 in 3 American voters said legalizing marijuana nationwide would be, quote, good. It would be a good idea, according to the recent poll from Emerson College. Okay. Rescheduling does not legalize cannabis. It just allows the industry to have the same business deductions that every other industry in the United States enjoys to stay in business, something Sam obviously does not want at all. To be fair, SAM founder and president Dr. Kevin Sabet released this statement, quote, "This is not a partisan issue. Everyone who cares about the safety of their community and making sure foreign drug dealers don't benefit from strategic policy errors speaking up and letting their voices be heard. We hope that the president, as he faces a pivotal choice on marijuana, listens to the voters and not a big money influence campaign." End quote. While prohibitionists continue their efforts to stop the rescheduling effort, some states are also using cannabis taxes to offset budget shortfalls. Case in point is Michigan, where this week the Republican-controlled House in that state passed a significant tax increase on wholesale sales. Keep in mind that state is coming off a year where they produced record tax revenue of $331 million. Still, that was not enough to satisfy lawmakers. Amy Carter has more in her Michigan report, now sponsored by Wally's Wonder World and their custom handmade humidors.
This is mold on wheat. This is mold on weed. And this is what this Wonder World plant is supposed to look like. Do you want to make sure this never happens to your precious flower? Check out the handmade humidors by Fenton, Michigan craftsman Gregory Johnson. Each humidor can hold 1 ounce of your stash, and it comes with a Boveda humidity pack. You care about your flower, so protect it inside a humidor made with American-grown maple, cherry, or sapele wood. Check out their website at wallyswonderworld.com. There you'll find the famous award-winning Hakuna Matata No Worries Humidor. You'll also find a variety of humidors with different designs. They even customize accessories like doobie tubes, grinders, and even a classic roach clip from the 70s. Treat your stash with class with a custom-made, handmade humidor from wallyswonderworld.com, and never worry about moldy weed again.
I'm Amy Carter with Michigan Weedsters with this week's Michigan Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm sorry, fam, but this week's buzz is all about politics. The Michigan legislature is lighting up some big issues that are going to be hitting your wallet. Our state leaders, led by Governor Whitmer, want to fix the damn roads, and their chosen funding source is you. The Michigan House just passed House Bill 4951, a bipartisan bill to pay for infrastructure with a massive new cannabis tax. The deal imposes 24% wholesale tax, which is in addition to the 16% retail tax, bringing the total tax burden on legal cannabis to a staggering 40%. This new wholesale tax even applies to medical cannabis. Lansing's number crunchers project it will raise $420 million annually for our roads. But the industry is warning this tax is a business killer. It will torpedo our successful low-price market, which is the biggest in the United States. It will drive consumers right back to the black market. This means lost jobs and reduced access for patients. If you live in Michigan, let your state senators know that making cannabis 40% while beer and wine are at a fraction of that is completely unacceptable. Urge a no vote on House Bill 4951. Michigan lawmakers are exploring legislation to put low-potency hemp-infused THC beverages into grocery stores, liquor shops, and bars. Currently, these drinks are only available at licensed dispensaries. This new plan, led by State Rep. Joe Argana, would route these hemp-derived seltzers through the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, dramatically expanding where you can grab a relaxing drink. This move is expected to generate significant new state tax revenue from a market that has exploited since 2018 Farm Bill. Finally, Rep. Joe Argana has introduced a package of bills to clean up two major industry issues. First up is payment reform under House Bill 4963. This bill mandates that all licensed marijuana retailers must pay for a product at the time of transfer to address the rampant problem of growers and processors not getting paid by the retail shops. So basically, there's no more fronts for businesses if this passes. Second is a push to regulate intoxicating hemp under House Bill 4964. This bill aims to stop the sale of unregulated, chemically converted hemp products. It would require these products to only be made by state licensed processors, with violations carrying misdemeanor penalties. Michigan sells more cannabis than any other state, and that's because its prices are low. Many people travel here from other states to buy, and the illicit market has been down. Hiking taxes to 40% will dramatically reduce these sales. People will suffer due to rationing medical cannabis, and small businesses will close, with Michiganders losing good jobs, all without generating the projected revenue. So it is all hands on deck, and now is the time to reach out to your state senator and oppose any new tax increase on cannabis. You can also attend the protest on Tuesday, September 30th in Lansing from 9 to 5. I'm Amy Carter with Michigan Weedsters.
The Michigan Report is sponsored by Wally'sWonderworld.com.
One more note on Michigan. That state is expected to vote on that tax increase that passed in the House sometime on Monday of this week. There's a major protest scheduled for Tuesday in Michigan as that legal adult use state continues to battle for a more reasonable and fair tax rate. Well, one of the oldest and most established cannabis markets operates in Colorado. That state has seen prices fall tremendously, and now regulators there are stepping up their efforts to curb bad actors who have been taking advantage of loose regulations that the state is now cleaning up. Case in point is that this week, 3 companies were given cease and desist orders. They were warned 5 years ago that the products they were producing were causing health issues, which included liver damage. The companies are Nuke Enterprises, SEMA Sciences, and Nuka Properties. All have been ordered to shut down their operations, and led by their co-founder Peter Barsoom, paid a $400,000 fine. They will be allowed to reopen if certain conditions are met, or they will be hit with another $600,000 fine. That state is starting to enforce more strict random testing controls, and Jenny Germano explains in her Colorado report.
I am Jenny Germano with ICS Consulting. This is the Colorado Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Colorado cannabis regulators are stepping up oversight. The Department of Public Health and Environment, together with the Marijuana Enforcement Division, Announced on September 19th, they'll soon begin to collect products directly from dispensary shelves across the state over the next few weeks. This one-time spot check aims to verify that cannabis products are both safe and accurately labeled. Officials say they will be testing for potential contaminants, things like pesticides, mold, or other harmful substances, as well as confirming that THC potency matches what is on the printed packaging and labels. The move comes after recent studies have raised red flags. Independent testing found that some cannabis products on the market contain misleading THC levels or failed safety standards. In some cases, products showed more or less potency than advertised, an issue that can be especially concerning for medical patients who rely on accurate dosing. By running these statewide spot checks, regulators say they're looking to protect public health, restore consumer confidence, and ensure the cannabis industry is held accountable to the standards already in place. Following the completion of the initial program, the CDPHE team will collect, organize, and analyze the data. The goal is for the CDPHE to publish an initial summary of data approximately 30 days after the program completion and more detailed report approximately 90 days after the program completion. The regulators have not yet disclosed if this will become a recurring program. For now, consumers are encouraged to purchase from licensed dispensaries and to look for official lab results when choosing products at their favorite dispensary. I am Jenny Germano with ICS Consulting, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Two stories out of New York this week. The state Supreme Court there is backing the existing dispensaries who were technically out of compliance when they were granted commence operation orders by the Office of Cannabis Management. 152 dispensaries had been allowed to operate in areas that, in retrospect, were deemed too close to schools. Albany Supreme Court Judge Carrie Savona delivered the preliminary injunction protecting the operations from any action that would have forced them to shut down already existing stores. Now, the state has until February of 2026 to enact permanent legislation allowing the stores to stay open. Staying open is all one dispensary in Southampton wants to be able to do. The store called Charlie Fox, yes, that's the name, was shut down by local town officials 1 week after it had opened, with Southampton town leaders claiming that even though Charlie Fox has a state legal permit to commence operations, the town still has final say over its operations. Once again, this will be settled in the courts. In Massachusetts, the court system has been busy trying to rectify the battle between the state and Commissioner Shannon O'Brien, who was reinstated for her improper dismissal following a series of accusations by disgruntled former employees of the Cannabis Control Commission. Now, O'Brien is back in charge, and she immediately put the kibosh on any progress made towards the awarding of social consumption licenses. With more from Massachusetts, here's Curtis Emery.
I'm Curtis Emery, a bud tender from Resonate in Worcester, Massachusetts, with the Bay State Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. More on a continuing story here out of Massachusetts, the CCC announces yet another pause in their release of official guidelines on social consumption lounges here in Massachusetts. Yes, with the turn of O'Brien to the CCC, the regulatory body has announced a delay in releasing this framework. Hopefully, more work will be done this month, but the pause is there primarily to get O'Brien caught up on where the CCC is heading and allowing the CCC to move forward in a unified manner. Also, news here out of Massachusetts. Last week, the House Ways and Means Committee voted on new changes to the medical delivery framework here in the state. Two clauses were removed from the original guidance and replaced with 3 new clauses. These 3 new clauses hope to open up business and make it easier for dispensaries and cultivators to offer medical delivery in the state. Of those 3 clauses, the biggest one would be a change in the cultivation methods used by cultivators who produce product for medical delivery. In the past, the law stipulated that only organic methods of cultivation would be allowed for medical delivery. However, going forward with these new guidelines, inorganic methods of cultivation are now open for legal medical delivery. Hopefully, this will make it so that patients who need cannabis delivered will be able to get what they need and allow for businesses to thrive within the state, offering different services for their customer base. I have been Curtis Emery with the Bay State Report, Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
That will do it for the A block of this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News. In the B block, we have more state reports and our international news segment from Europe and Canada. Plus, Carrie Hinkle's Hemp Report explains why some things just take forever in our federal government that is close to shutting down this week. Cannabis Coast to Coast News continues after this break.
Your cannabis business could be overpaying by hundreds of thousands of dollars in federal income taxes because of one simple assumption that you're making about your accountant. A dispensary owner in Colorado called me frustrated as hell. He'd been working with the same accountant for 3 years. His accountant said, "What's 471C?" Here's what the ignorance of that accountant was costing this business owner: $180,000 every single year for 3 years. 471C has been around since 2017. We're talking about an 8-year-old tax provision that many cannabis CPAs don't fully understand. 471C is one of the most complex and highly debated tax strategies in the cannabis industry. If you want to make sure you're not leaving any money on the table, I'm offering free 471C reviews this month. Link in the description.
Accounting Buds has grown into Buds Group, the same award-winning quality, now with more service offerings. Buds Group, your best buds in the biz.
Looking for PR that over-delivers on expectations? At Maverick Public Relations, they pair big agency experience with personalized attention. From launching award-winning brands to securing top-tier media hits, their data-driven communications team helps visionary leaders and entrepreneurs rise above the media noise. Maverick PR is responsive, collaborative, and relentless about results and ROI. Visit themaverickpr.com and make headlines together.
If you want to make history, if you want to be part of history, if you want to say you helped legalize marijuana in America, now is the time to join us.